All right, it was good to have an open date last week. Had an opportunity to go back and kind of look at the good things and the things that we weren't doing as well. Gave us a chance to work on them last week. We did a lot of self-scout. That's what you do in open date weeks, and it came at a perfect time, middle of the season, halfway finished. Now we've got 6 big games in a row, and we know we've got to improve at every position to have a chance to win any of these games coming up. It's going to be very hard. We understand what we're getting into. If we don't improve, the wins and losses won't improve. We have got to play better. We've got to coach better. We've got to do a better job of getting ready to play every quarter, not just 1 quarter, 2 quarters. We've got to play 4 quarters, and we've got to make plays. Attitude's good. Again, it was good last week. We really hadn't had that many injuries other than some guys beat up a little bit, so we got a chance to let a few guys rest, get a little better. We're going to this next 6 games pretty much like we did going in the first game of the season. Healthy, guys ready to play. Now we've had game preparation for the last 4 or 5 practices. We had yesterday off, and today we really get into the game mode because this thing will be over with, regular season, 5 weeks from Friday, so it'll be rapid fire. Things we got to get better at, obviously, is on offense, consistency, up and down and running the football, not making big plays, converting third down plays, protection of the quarterback from the back to the front. In other words, from backs blocking to the offensive line blocking. We've had some breakdowns there. I thought some of our better points of our offense first 6 games, a couple of receivers stepped up that needed to step up to make a few plays. We didn't have enough guys step up in receivers, some of the younger guys. Tight ends played very well. We're playing a tight end probably 50% more of the time than we did this time last year. We've got to get better at the running back position. And I know we've got 2 good running backs, but they've got to do a good job and a better job, improve each game that we get into now of understanding what we're doing. We missed some protections. The Connecticut game, we gave up way too much pressure from some guys that our backs were blocking. We've got to be more aggressive. And those are some small things that we've got to work on, some things that we can improve on. And that's what I pointed out. We had a lot of team meetings in the last 8 or 9 days about just little things that we've got to improve on to have a chance to win these games coming up, especially on the offensive side of the ball. We have not been very good. We're 10 points down in terms of points scored from last year to this point, knowing that last year we had a very good offense. We had a lot of yards, scored a lot of points. We knew they would be down. But that gives a kind of a rallying point, knowing that, hey, we averaged 23 points a game first 6 games. We got to get closer to 30 points. We've got to do that. Defensive side of the ball, we have played better this year. Some of the high points, I thought our defensive ends have really played well, considering what we played in the last couple of years where they're growing up a little bit. Still young guys. Our corners, much improved. I think our nickel, Mike Tyson, much improved. Played much better. We're not as consistent at our safety position because we lost both of them in the Purdue game, and they've been in and out of playing since that game. So those guys have a chance to even make us better. Linebacker position is improved somewhat with making a change after losing our Mike linebacker after the 2nd game. Perry Young has been not a pleasant surprise, but a guy that we had to throw into the mix. He's going to be very athletic for us for the rest of this year and the years to come. He's the type of linebacker that you're looking for on defense, the type of offenses that we're seeing. But overall defensively, I think you can pretty much say we're much better there. But we've got to have some help out of the offense. We've got to have some help out of special teams. This is a 3-sided game when you play football. It can't be one-sided. Last few years we've been one-sided on offense. This year we're one-sided on defense. We've got to put it all together. But the spirits are high. Our guys practice hard. They're disappointed as we are. But we've got an opportunity now to change things around. Starts this weekend with East Carolina, who is a team that we battled the last 2 years, come down to a last-second field goal in both games. They're very athletic. They've got the number 1 receiver in the country, number 7. He's catching a lot of footballs. Their quarterback, they throw 60 to 70% of the time. They're all over the field. They're fast. They're one of these high-octane offenses, and it's a huge challenge. when you play a team like this on defense. But we've seen it. All these guys have played against this type of offense now for the last couple of years, and so we feel a lot more at home playing teams like this in Tulsa, Temple, guys that go fast, guys that run, guys that throw, very athletic. We played very well against teams like this earlier in the year for a couple of quarters, 3 quarters in South Florida and Houston. We just didn't finish off. We didn't play well at the end in either of those games, and we addressed that as we watched the end of the game with all of our offense and defense together of those 2 games that we played. You've got to learn from those situations. You can't hide it and kick it back and say we don't want to ever watch that again. You got to learn from your mistakes, and man, did we make some in that last quarter. So that being said, we just got to be more consistent and keep learning on offense. I mean, it's obviously growing pains with what we're doing with a lot of young guys. I thought we'd be a little bit farther along in terms of running the football, but that being said, we just got a lot of work to do, and we got to keep going. That's got to be a focus for us in practice every day, which it has been since we started camp. We wanted to be a better running football team, and that hasn't happened. But we want to be balanced, and if we're not balanced, if we do like we did at Connecticut and throw for 350 and run it for 2 yards, you're not going to win a lot of games. We don't want to be a flashy team. We want to be a solid team that's going to play well every week for 4 quarters, give ourselves a chance to win. And so it's like I said, this all open date came at a good time to rally mentally and physically. Now it's time to regroup. Got 5 weeks to go in this season after this game this week, and these guys will continue to play hard. Questions?
You said on the coaches' call yesterday you might make some changes, personnel changes and technique changes. Can you talk about those?
Yeah. We did some things on offense in terms of running the football technique-wise of what we want to do. A lot of times it depends on the type of personnel you have. Sometimes you don't want to force things to make it better, and so we want to take an easier route where these guys can be a little bit more comfortable. We stuck with a few things that they knew a little bit more about from the last year's offense in terms of techniques. I'm not talking about plays, but it just wasn't working out as well. So it gave us a week to kind of change it a little bit, our footwork, our hands and things like that to help us run the football. We're going to be a good passing team as we continue to go on. I mean, that sounds crazy, but for right now it's becoming easier for us to be a better passing team, because we've thrown the ball so much over the last few years. Is running the football, establishing the running game, being able to stay on blocks longer with the right techniques. And so coaches did a good job. We went back from day one in camp, looked at everything, looked at our scrimmages, looked at every game that we played, who was struggling and why they were struggling, and that's how you make the changes. Personnel-wise, I talk about personnel. We'll make changes in the 2 deep. And we've made some of those, moving them back and forth, trying to make sure we get the best, 22 on each side of the ball playing each week. And in special teams, we made some changes in special teams of how we're going to do things. A little bit different philosophy to try to give us a little bit more of an edge. You just don't sit back and just take what you're doing. That's the part of coaching that I like is, changing things and see the guys accept them, make them work, and make you a better team. And so we don't have a long time left in this season, but we've got a lot of time left where we can really prove on whether it's the changes we're making or whether we're changing the techniques and adding plays or dropping plays, fronts, coverages. We do that every week, but you want to make sure that some of the things that aren't working after this point, you got to get rid of them, and you might either put something else in or just lean on something else, whether it's a running play or a coverage or whatever, to make us stronger for 4 quarters.
So with the running game, it's not the back so much, it's the technique of the guys up front.
Well, it's a little bit of all of it, and a lot to do with the people that we're playing and what they're doing. The last game, for instance, they were a huge 8-man front. They said you're going to throw it to win, and we threw it, and we just didn't make enough plays throwing the football, to get it done throwing it. But you can't do that. I mean, you can't be one-sided. And we don't want to get into a deal like last year. We got into it and said, if we had the weapons at some areas to maybe get it done at times, throwing the football almost every down. You have to be a team that can run it and throw it. I don't care who you are. Some teams rely on a running quarterback. We see that. We've seen it all year long. You see it on television. You're starting to see it in the NFL. We're not a running quarterback. Our tailbacks have to run the football. They got to be our bread and butter. We're not going to scramble and make a big play out of a bad play with our quarterback. We might get 5 or 10 yards. We won't get 50 yards. And so we're more of a pro-style attack. That's what we want to be. That's what we feel like can win for us more consistent once we get it going. But we want to be more of a tailback offense instead of teams are putting their tailback basically at quarterback and running their quarterback.
You don't seem to get a lot of big plays because you don't have that kind of wide receiver. Is that part of the problem that when you have to drive so far downfield, it takes so long, gives you more chance to make mistakes?
Yeah, consistency. That's what we tell our defense. If we can get them started at the 20-yard line, we're going to force them to make 10 or 11 play drives. That's not going to happen about 20-25% of the time. That's the average. Over the last couple of years, we've had a few receivers that, we could score in 2 plays. That is a huge advantage. Huge. We don't have that right now. We don't have the capabilities from more than 1 or 2 receivers. Last year we had 4. Who are you going to cover? You cover those 2, we're going to throw these 2. And people after the first few games kind of saw, okay, where do they stand? Who do we need to take out of the game? We know going into the game, that who we play. We try to take away certain people and make them throw it to somebody else. And so when you're starting the drive, for instance, the last couple of games, our offense has not done very well. We have not moved the ball. We have not scored points. But if you look at the drives where we've started inside the 10-yard line 4 or 5 times, and it's almost impossible to drive the length of the field. And defenses just kind of give you a little bit, and sooner or later you're going to cut your own throat. You're not going to make it. And so we got to have a lot more consistency of non-executing plays. When you're depending on your quarterback to make all those plays like we have the last few years, sooner or later you're not going to make that play. It's like the last few weeks. You make plays, but if you can't hand that ball off and get 4 or 5 yards and get in second short, it just makes it that much tougher for a quarterback and the offensive line. Being a defensive guy, I love to get people in second and long and third and long. When you do that, you better be really good on offense, and we're just not to that point yet.
But you talked about rallying guys a little bit. When you start 0-3 in conference, I'm sure that's a little bit disappointing for you. But what do you sell the final 6 weeks to really keep them going, give them something to kind of shoot for? What's the motivation?
Yeah, fortunately for the way I handle it, I handle it with our seniors. And the seniors, it's got to go from our senior set on the front row. It's got to go from the front row all the way back. And this is the year that the seniors will be remembered. It won't be the year we won the conference 2 years ago or all the games that they've won. It's going to be this year. So, we talk, and we had very good discussions, two 30, 40-minute discussions with the seniors, and I let them talk about what they think, because you get a lot from them sometimes that you can build off from of what they say. Sometimes, you got to filter through that, and sometimes you say, that might be a good point. Let's really talk about that as a team, and then talk about it as a coaching staff. But you got to give them that, accountability, for what's happening. I want them to leave here on a great note, and so they've been great. This has been a very good group. They all talk. Sometimes you get seniors. You might have 20 guys in here that 3 of them do the talking. This group, we basically got 8 or 9 seniors that play, and they all talk because they all understand the situation they're in. They don't want to end up like this. They want to keep playing hard. They want to be known as a team that started out this way but finished strong. And so good discussions, and I think the younger guys, which a lot of them behind them, we've got young receivers that some of them are playing that need to grow up. We talk about that. I say, listen, we can only do so much. You've got to talk to them. You've got to let them know how much they've got to concentrate, watch the game, understand when they're in there, the ball's thrown on 3rd and 5, you got to catch the ball. You got to make a play. It's not an experienced guy that you can just kind of fluff off and say they'll get the job done. You got to help them make that decision. And so it's a good group to be around. You hate to be around in this situation, but it's a good group, that understands and that said, hey, we're throwing in the towel. They want to win. They want to win every game. They want to get better. And they know the situation they're in terms of where we need to get better. So they've had their own offensive meetings, defensive meetings, team meetings, in a good group.
Did Hayden come out of that game healthy, and is he starting this week?
Yeah, he's pretty. I gave him a couple of days off last week just to get 100%. He was probably 95, 96. Had a tough time going to his left, planting his left foot. But, he's ready to go now. They're all ready to go. We're having good competition. Everybody wants to know about the quarterback. Last 2 weeks, we've thrown them all in there. I told them whoever the best one in practice, whoever could run the game plan the best is going to be our guy. And we've got great competition, great attitudes. And usually your football team takes the attitude from, the quarterbacks. They look at the quarterbacks, how they handle winning and losing, and everybody else is on that same plateau. And fortunate for us, we've got 3 guys that have played now, been there. They kind of understand the battles, what they're getting into. And we're looking for somebody to step up in these next 3 days and see who it's going to be. I'm looking for the best guy, as we all are.
So Andrew Gantz, is he?
Gantz is done. Yeah, he's done. He had 70 days from, like I said, I've never been around a doctor tell me he got 70 days. But he had a pretty significant tear of one of his IT bands, but he'll be back soon. But he won't kick this year. And that's kind of stabilized what we've been doing. It was a tough 4 or 5 weeks there, not knowing going into the game who the holder was going to be, who the kicker was going to be, who we needed to practice. You can only practice kicking as a team and as a unit so much during the week. And I thought the young kid did a great job in the Connecticut game. I didn't kick the first one. It was 48 yards. I went for 4th down. We didn't make it, but I didn't want to put him in that situation in trying to kick one that far early. And then, lo and behold, he nailed the next 3. Did a good job. So feel good about our kicking game. Geraci's doing a good job. Our coverage teams could be better at times, but we've got to get better at returns. I mean, to me, we've got to help our offense when we're struggling with shorter fields. We got longer fields, and that's an area where you really got to find a way to get those 50 and 60-yard drives instead of those 80 and 90-yard drives. That makes a huge difference, for an offense that needs to have something positive happen for them.
Might you make a change there at your return?
We've done that. I mean, we've in every game we've put in that we've had opportunities. We've put in Kahil Lewis, Mike's run some back, Tion's run some back. We put Braylon Beard back at returning punts. Devin Gray is our second punt returner. It's just the problem you have on punt returns now in college and pro is very seldom do you get an opportunity to return a punt because these kids are kicking them sky high. The hang time is unbelievable. You've got to be dang near perfect to get a guy catch the ball and make somebody miss. I think we've had 1 or 2 this year. So, but we've worked a lot on the kicking game last week, especially on returns, doing some different things. And so we're just looking for new ideas, but you don't want to get away from things that you've been working on, and all of a sudden you start new on some things that we're real close to making it happen. So again, it's that's the fun of coaching is how far do you go with changes, how much do you do, or do you just we've got to get better at this, and knowing it's the right thing we're doing, we just got to get better execution.
Comment on the Big 12 developments from yesterday?
Yeah, I didn't get involved with it, and really here at the University of Cincinnati, I think everybody really handled it great. I've been 2 places where changed conference at University of Miami years ago when decided to get into the Big East, and then I saw a lot of change in the Big 12 when I was at Texas Tech. It's like anything; you don't force anything to happen. You do your job at your university. You make everything as strong as you possibly can, You let everybody know what you've got, and everything works out. And I think we handle that great. There's no cheering, no going out and trying to sell ourselves. You got it yourself is to sell itself to people. And there's going to be changeover in college football in the next 5 or 6 years. I mean, this is not the end of the line. There's going to be huge turnover. There's going to be a realignment. There's going to be things happen. Big 12, they come out a few months ago and said, we'll look at it, see if that's what's going to be better for their conference. I don't think it had anything to do with any teams that they possibly could have taken. I think being in that conference before, I think they were just looking to make sure that they were doing the right things with who they had in their league. And, I haven't heard any talk or press conference or anything. I'm sure they thought this was the best thing for them at this time. So we'll just keep going forward and try to make our conference better. As I said, there's going to be a lot of movement in the next few years.